Authority, the Christian constitutional framework. Authority is one of the most misunderstood elements of Christian moral thought today. Many imagine authority as a one-way street in which the vassal owns absolute obedience to the Lord. From this premise, many believe those in authority have a right to lord it over those who are below them. And if anyone squirms, this is a sure sign of rebellion and sin. Such a notion is often fed by scriptural passages quoted out of context. Obey, obey, they say. They see with little understanding of the constitutional framework for authority laid down in the Gospel. The medieval theologian Thomas Aquinas put it well when he pointed out that all authority is derived from natural law and the good it seeks to promote and defend. Authority does not come before justice but flows from it. Parents only have authority over their children insofar as this is necessary because of their inability to act on their own behalf because of their age, inexperience and limited competency to act, and also to help regulate the common good. That is, no man is an island. We all relate to other people and there need at times to be people who will make decisions for the common good. This is very far from the idea of having a right to rule and lording it over another person. It means that authority only comes into force when it is necessary for the common good. Put simply, a good parent seeks to diminish their governance over their children by stages as their children grow in maturity as responsible people in their own right. Obedience submits to authority because it is grounded on the good and natural law. Ownership too must be assessed on this basis. For Aquinas, taking your food by the hungry when there is no other way is not stealing but a right. Those who deny food to the hungry and live in luxury are guilty of theft. So here we have a broader understanding of what constitutes ownership, what the limits of ownership are, and also how we view the whole notion of morality. In Ephesians 6:1 we read, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honour your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth." In ancient Semitic culture, built upon the tribal system, parents represented authority. Parents also represented the old and infirm, that the younger had a responsibility to look after. So there is this dual purpose when we look at honouring parents. It is honouring authority, but it is also respecting the weak and those who cannot look after themselves. Thus, honour your father and your mother can be translated to mean give authority its due and look after the weak and those in need, especially those closest to you. A major trap Christians fall into is the snare of legal positivism. This is the notion that law has validity regardless of whether it is founded on natural law or not. The simple fact that a law is legislated gives it moral force. This is the error of legal positivism. In Acts 5:29, Peter says to the members of the Sanhedrin, who had instructed him to stop preaching in the name of Jesus, "We must obey God rather than men." Compare this now with Romans 13:10. "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath, to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants, who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honour, then honour. What we have in these words is a veiled presentation of natural law authority principles. Paul is not saying to obey everything the Romans demand of them. He is saying be obedient to the good. Love is the revolutionary core of both the Christian moral life and the Christian understanding of both authority and obedience. In Matthew 20, 25-27, we hear Jesus warn his apostles as follows. You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. When authority is not exercised in this manner, it becomes occultish and devilish. It inverts the right moral order and corrupts true authority and transforms it into institutionalised tyranny. Oftentimes we are forced, like Paul, to submit to such institutionalised violence to avoid a greater evil and out of respect for the greater common good. Indeed, little in this world is perfect. Ours is a world given over to darkness, a world that has disfigured the good and distorted what is right and just. In Ephesians 6, 5-9, Paul declares, Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favour when their eyes are on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly, as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whether they are slaves or free. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favouritism with him. Paul is not condoning slavery here, as some people have thought. What he is saying is that we are all in a sense slaves bound by an imperfect world, and that each of us must seek to transform it as best we can in accordance with natural law principles. Remember that Daniel was loyal to an array of pagan rulers during the Babylonian captivity, who was obedient in what was good and refused to submit to what was bad. His loyalty to earthly authority flowed from his loyalty to heavenly authority. Those who promote obedience in the tradition of legal positivism ignore the natural law constitutional framework on which true obedience builds and are guilty of witchcraft. This includes a great many Christians, and especially those in lofty positions of authority. Many in society have no developed social conscience and equate legality with what is right, and or are enamoured by the invocation that might is right. This is a reality of the world in which we live, a reality that makes it difficult to establish communities dedicated to natural law-based ethics. The rebel is not only the one who fights against established authority, but he who imposes arbitrary and or unjust authority from above. Both are rebels. Indeed, the term terrorism was first used in relation to rogue states rather than rogue individuals. Those who wish to lord it over the people often rely on the artifice of total unquestioning obedience to extend and consolidate their power. Those who do not submit to the ruse are designated rebels, detestable reprobates. Such is also a feature of so-called Christian communities in many cases. Let us now look at the constitutional framework for authority presented by Jesus in the New Testament.